Hey everyone, Professor Laura here. We've been talking a little bit about Darwin, and if you've heard about evolution, you've probably heard his name before. But after Darwin put his theory out there, now we have a bunch of other people who are contributing to this theory. So let's talk about our next important name, Alfred Russell Wallace. Alfred Russell Wallace also lived in the 1800s, though he was a little bit younger than Darwin. And unlike Darwin, who went to South America, Alfred Russell Wallace spent more time in the Malay archipelago. He did also go to the Amazon, but most of his important insights were from looking at the fauna of Malaysia. Um, One thing he noticed when he was in Malaysia is he actually started to notice some of the similar things to Darwin. He actually wrote a letter to Darwin being like, hey, I have these ideas and I think I'm going to publish them. To which Darwin responded with, oh, fuck, I guess I better publish mine. Um, Darwin had this really interesting opportunity that he actually could have completely scooped Alfred Russell Wallace, who was still abroad at the time. Instead, Darwin was actually super nice about it, and they published a joint paper in 1858 about their ideas of natural selection. And you can see here they're both credited. So you might ask, like, if they both came up with this theory, why do we mostly talk about Darwin and not about Alfred Russell Wallace? Well, that's because Darwin came out a year later with his book on the origin of species. He spent so much more time, his research was more comprehensive, and he published more works on this area. And Alfred Russell Wallace is important for different things, namely biogeography. Biogeography is the distribution of plants and animals on Earth. And Alfred Russell Wallace, we consider him the father of biogeography, specifically for his insights when he was traveling around Malaysia and other countries in Oceania. So what we can see on this map here is different animals live in different places, and that's really specific. We don't find camels in Canada. They're in the wrong place. It's not the right environment, but also that's not where the ancestors of camels are. We only find camels in really specific deserts, and we don't find them in different deserts around the world because they only evolved in one place. One of the most important insights that Alfred Russell Wallace has was looking at the fauna in Oceania. So we can see here he drew a line on our map. On one side, all of the islands closer to mainland Asia, all of the animals look pretty normal to us. They all look about the same. On the other side, all of the animals are the weird stuff that comes from Australia. If you've heard of all of the jokes about how Australia has a lot of weird animals, most of them want to kill you, yeah, that's right. All of the animals in Australia do look pretty different from everything else. The reason is Australia's been separate from every other continent for a really long period of time. So all the animals on Australia, they've been evolving independently and apart from everything else for just as long. And that line actually matches really well the tectonic plates. Some of the islands in the middle there, those are actually hotspot islands that they just appeared in the middle. But everything closer to the Asian mainland was actually connected to the mainland relatively recently. So there's been joint evolution of all of the animals on the mainland side of that line. What's interesting are there are a few species that actually go live on both sides of Wallace's line here, namely our tarsiers. So tarsiers, we have three different lineages going on, the Philippine tarsier in yellow, the Western tarsier in red, and the Eastern tarsier in blue. We can overlay Wallace's line and we notice that tarsiers, different groups of them, actually appear on both sides of Wallace's line. This is really unique and doesn't really happen. What we think is going on with tarsiers is this is evidence for recent island dispersal, and that it's actually relatively easy for these guys to disperse from one island to another. So, can you explain who is Alfred Russell Wallace and why was he important?